listening to Arrow FM 92.7. My name is Alex Nyman, and this is Jazz Club.
I took a trip on a train and I thought about you. I passed a shadowy lane and I thought about you. 2 or 3 cars parked under the stars, a winding stream, moon shining down on some little town, and with each beam the same old dream. And every stop that we made, oh, I thought about you. But when I pulled down the shade, then I really felt blue. I peeked through the crack and looked at the track, the one going back to you. And what did I do? I thought about you. I took a trip on a train and I thought about you. I passed a shadowy lane and I thought about you. 2 or 3 cars parked under the stars, a winding stream, moon shining down on some little town, and with each beam the same old dream. And every stop that we made, oh, I thought about you. And when I pulled down the shade, then I really felt blue. I peeked through the crack and looked at the track, the one going back to you. And what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? I thought about you. I thought about you.
That was Elaine Elias the former wife of a very famous trumpet player called Randy Brecker. I believe Randy's now married to someone else. Can't remember the name. Actually, no, I do. She's a fabulous saxophone player, actually, oddly enough. And I can't remember her name. Apologies to Randy Brecker's wife, who is a saxophone player, and I don't remember your name. But I will research that, and I will get back to you with her name. And actually, just to make up for not knowing her name, I'm going to play a track from her next week, and as a means of apology. Who else did I play before that? Oh, that was Roy Hargrove from his album Ear Food. Roy, one of the coolest, if not the coolest, trumpet player on the face of the planet. And if you thought Miles Davis was cool, you have to see this guy in action. Check him out on YouTube if you like. Roy Hargrove. He's a fabulous trumpet player. He's not an old guy either. He's really young. He's super cool. But he's just, yeah, it's absolutely awesome. Just check him out. Wonderful player. And I was just looking at my jazz club playlists, and I realised that today is my 15th show since I started. And I cast my mind back to the very first show and how I panicked and wondered how I was going to get through the hour or so, or a couple of hours that I'd had planned, and trying to sort of coordinate the buttons with bits and pieces. And man, it was a real panic show going on then. But fortunately, I think I finally got it under control. I've tamed the beast, as it were. And yeah, so it's a very pleasant environment in which to work. And I'm very much enjoying bringing you this wonderful music that we call jazz. Now, who else have I got coming up for you now? I actually have a trumpet player now, and he is from the States. He's a great trumpet player. His name is Ryan Kizor, and this is a track called Falling. It's the old standard, Falling in Love with Love. It's Ryan Kisor there on trumpet from his album called Battle Cry, and that was the wonderful old standard called Falling in Love with Love. And so what am I going to say to you? Yes, I know what I was going to say to you. I know I mentioned last week about the Martinborough Jazz Festival coming up 31st of August, 1st September, 2nd of September. It's Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And I think proceedings actually do kick off on the Thursday night on the 30th of August. And I'm going to mention it to you every week just so that you're aware of that. And if you are able to go along and support any or all of the acts, please do. Lee there and Ted, who organised this whole event, putting so much work to get it organised. I know I'm part of it this year. I'm going to be bringing up a band from the New Zealand School of Music. Fabulous players there called James Weeks on drums. We've got Ella Dunbar Wilcox on vocals, James Guilford Smith on trumpet, Alexander Bolton on guitar, and Winton Nyman on bass. I shall be undoubtedly dabbling in a few of my hooters at some point during the 2 days. We've got a few gigs going on at the Village Cafe, and then the duo and trio from that particular sextet will be playing in and around Martinborough. In the square, Pinocchio's, I think, somewhere like that. Anyway, but it's going to be a fantastic festival. There's and now the theme for this year, in case you don't know, is Women in Jazz. So there's going to be, I think there's an opening concert with Erna Ferry and two other ladies whose names escape me at this moment. I haven't researched that very well. That's okay. I will undoubtedly research it for next week just so that you're aware of who the people are who are singing on that particular opening night. So as I say, Erna Ferry, I know Roger Fox has got quite a big part of the proceedings. He's going to be doing a lot of organising, and they also organise something called Fresh Jam, which happens, I think it's actually next weekend over at Kurunui College in Greytown, and this is an event where lots of different jazz bands from all over the New Zealand come together, and they're all from different schools, so they're college bands, as it were, and they get to perform, and the best three out of the lot get to perform during the festival. I'll bring you more details about that nearer the time, because I'll probably hear who's going to be there after next weekend, because I know Roger's coming up to adjudicate, have a listen to the bands and see what they're up to. But it's a great initiative by the guys, Ted and Lee, to get some sort of promotional stuff going there for younger musicians, hopefully before they come into the School of Music in Wellington, which is a good place to go. And of course there's always the School of Music up in Auckland, and I believe there's one down in Christchurch as well. Anyway, fabulous. Okay, so now look, listen, I've got some really cool stuff now. Doing a little bit of research again last night on the sort of older music, and I came across some really, really interesting playing. Now, when I was very young, around about 13 or 14, I got introduced to Charlie Parker. I mean, I don't think physically introduced to him. I didn't meet him; he was dead by then. But nevertheless, one of my older brothers gave me a book called Bird Lives by Ross Russell, and I read it from cover to cover in a few days because it was so gripping about the story of Charlie Parker, obviously the one of the most famous saxophonists in the whole of history, and I read it, and I really didn't know anything about his music at all. I'd never heard it and didn't know what it was about. And I saw they got some sort of printed musical excerpts in the book, but it didn't mean a great deal to me as such because I couldn't hear it. And they talked about some of the earlier recordings of Charlie Parker, and I'd never really heard those. I mean, obviously all the sort of stuff he did around about the sort of mid-40s to the late 50s. Late 50s, he died in 54, or was it 55? Anyway, all that stuff I know very well. However, this is some stuff from when he was with the J. McSham Band, and I'm going to just play it to you, let you have a listen. This is, it features a couple of vocal numbers as well. This is called Jumping Blues, and this is featuring Charlie Parker.
don't you remember me? Hello, little girl, don't you remember me? Time ain't been so long, but I've had a break, you see. Well, I'm doing all right. Found me a Cupid doll. Well, I'm doing all right. Found me a Cupid doll. She lives 2 flights up, and she sends me with a smile. Well, she calls me her lover, well, and a beggar too. Yeah, she calls me her lover, well, and a beggar too. Ain't you sorry, little girl, that my new little girl ain't you? Nothing seems okay. When you're feeling lonely, nothing seems okay. Forget your troubles and jump your blues away. If your woman tells you that she's going to stay, if your woman tells you that she's going to stay, don't drink no whiskey, just jump your blues away. You can't drown no troubles, boy, that's all a lie. You can't drown no troubles, boy, that's all a lie. I'll be jumping the blues until the day I die.
So that was Hootie Blues there, the J McShane Band, and Charlie Parker featured there on alto saxophone. It's difficult to imagine, I guess, how that would have sounded at the time to people that have not heard Charlie Parker playing before, because I know it caused quite an uproar amongst a lot of saxophone players. In fact, nearly all the saxophone players at the time were playing with sort of big, wide vibratos, and Charlie came along with this incredibly light, beautiful sound, and of course his harmonic approach was very, very different to the kind of maybe slightly more static harmonic approach of guys of the time. He just basically developed a whole new language called bebop, and from which he became very famous. And yes, it was mostly played extremely fast tempos, because that wasn't, but nevertheless you can still see the inklings, the beginnings there of what he was all about. And I think it's so cool to be able to just delve into the archives of Apple, if you will, and find these sort of great tracks that are there, featuring these guys. That, I mean, I only wish I had that stuff when I was 14 years old. I have to wait until now to actually hear it all, but yeah, it's cool to listen to it, and I hope you enjoy it as well. It's really good. Okay, so what have I got now? Oh, look, oddly enough, I've got another saxophone player, and this talking about women in jazz. This is she's a fabulous saxophone player. Her Melissa Aldana. Okay, so she, I got into Melissa, sort of, her sound, her playing and everything, probably about a year ago. Hadn't really heard about her much before then, but with the beauty of YouTube and probably, things like Instagram, what have you, I mean, all these sort of names keep popping up occasionally, so you sort of think, well, I better just check that and see what they're all about. And there she was. And no, I actually mentioned her name to one of my students down at the School of Music the other day, and she said, "Oh, well, that's great. Yeah, did you check out a video of her? I really love her. Did you check out a video of her when she was 14 on this sort of talent show?" And I didn't, so I Googled, YouTube, Melissa Aldana, 14 years old, talent show, and sure enough, there she was playing in this talent show. Man, she was playing so well when she was 14. Sounded amazing. And this is a track from her anyway, and this is called Free Fall. Melissa Aldana there, saxophone player, from her album called Freefall. And the name of that track was, believe it or not, Freefall. Really excellent saxophone player. And I know she's kind of playing different to that now. I know she's got a kind of slightly different sound. She's changed the setup a little bit. But nevertheless, I think you can hear that there's a fantastic player behind all of that music. Now, listen, if you remember, over the last 15 shows, every week I nearly always given out my email address for the show, which is arrowfmjazzclub@gmail.com. That's arrowfmjazzclub@gmail.com. And up until now, I have not had one single person write to me. It's okay. I don't know. Maybe there's only one or two of you listening to me out there anyway. But the thing is that this morning I woke up as I often do, around about sort of 3:30 in the mornings. If it's on a Monday and a Friday, I generally just get up and go into Wellington and get in there for about 5 o'clock and practice until the kids come in about 10 o'clock. But as it is, on a day like today, I thought, I'll just get up and have a little walk around. So I went, got up and went into the kitchen with my phone and had a little look at the emails, and I saw one there for jazz, but our OFM Jazz Club. And it said, greetings from Austria regarding your jazz club. And I thought, it's one of those dodgy emails, isn't it? And it says there's a couple of things here to download. And I thought, oh, God, if I download them, they'll have access to my bank accounts, my life, everything that I've ever done. And it'll all be laid bare for everyone to see. So I read through, and basically it was a lady called Mona who was introducing me to a bass player who is from Austria. And actually, it's quite a legitimate email, and lots of very bona fide links to music by this bass player. She was really sort of raving about him. I think she's his manager, basically. So she was telling me about him and how wonderful he is. And so I clicked on a few of the bits and pieces and listened to it, and it's really very, very interesting music. And what I will do, so I really didn't have time between 3 o'clock this morning and by the time I left for the show today to actually sort of do anything with that, because I'm quite busy with other things. And so unfortunately I didn't have anything to play for you from him, but however, next week I will have a whole heap of stuff to play for you from him. And I can also, this lady from Austria can then look at these podcasts, hopefully, because as you know, the show goes out live now. And then it's repeated tonight at 9 o'clock on RFM 92.7. And then tomorrow it goes out on Wairarapa TV, channel 41, at 12 and 5 and 11 p.m. So you can check it out then if you want to see the TV version of this show. And of course, it's also on my show page, which is on the RFM website. And if you click on my show page, you'll take you down. You scroll down to the bottom, and there you'll see the show in all its glory for you to watch and listen to. So anyway, enough about that. Now I've got actually I thought we'll have some more vocals. Beautiful vocalist, you probably heard of her. Really wonderful singer. Her name is Diana Krall.
It's wonderful, it's marvelous that you should care for me. It's awfully nice, it's paradise. It's what I love to see. You make my life so glamorous. You can't blame me for feeling errors. Oh, it's wonderful, marvelous that you should care for me. It's wonderful, baby. It's marvelous that you should care for me. It's awful nice, sure it's paradise. It's what I love to see. My dear, it's 4-leaf clover time from now on. My heart's working overtime. It's wonderful, marvelous that you should care for me. for me. Awful nice and good at its paradise. It's what I love to see you make my life so glamorous. You can't blame me for feeling amorous. It's wonderful, marvelous that you should care for me. East of the sun and west of the moon, we'll build a dream house of love to you, close to the sun in the day and nearer to the moon at night. We'll live in a lovely way, dear, sharing our love in the pale moonlight, just you and I, forever and a day. Love will not die, we'll keep it that way. Up among the stars we'll find a harmony, a life to a lovely tune. East of the sun, west of the moon, dear. East of the sun and west of the moon. stars will find a harmony, a life to a lovely tune. East of the sun, Shabuga, west of the moon. Dear, east of the sun, west of the moon. West of the moon, Shabba-da-dum-doo. Dee-ba-dum-dee, Shabba-da-dee. John Clayton. Featured on that song, John Clayton.
It's Diana Krall. East of the Sun and West of the Moon, and followed that was after Wonderful, another fantastic old standard there, and that was recorded live in Paris, as you could probably hear there. And Diana's a fantastic piano player, and she's doing the singing as well, obviously. Most enjoyable, and it's one of my I wouldn't say one of my favourite albums, but certainly one of those albums I'd like to go back to. Some other tracks from that have some really fantastic orchestral arrangements behind them. There's a full orchestra there. I might sort of dig those up as well and play some of those again for you at a later stage. Now, I was talking about Charlie Parker before, and saying how unusual it was for people at that time when he came out, 1942. 1941 or whatever, and was playing with the Joe McShann band, how unusual he would have sounded to a lot of people at the time. And I had pretty much the same experience when I was about 14. Was I 14? Yes, I was about 14 or 15. And it was just during the time when, actually, I was a big David Bowie fan when I was that age. I'm going back a bit now. And he'd sort of come out with Space Oddity stuff and everything, and he got into his Aladdin Sane stuff. And actually, no, this was when he was doing the Young Americans thing. And I remember listening to Radio 1 at the breakfast table one morning, and I'd been playing saxophone maybe for, I don't know, sort of 3 years or so, and generally sort of only been listening to Charlie Parker and Lester Young and all the required standards, as it were. And then this thing came on. It was David Bowie singing Young Americans, and it had this introduction, and I really kind of couldn't quite work out what it was that was playing, whether it was I don't know, it sounded so strange at the time. It sounded like a saxophone, I suppose, to a certain extent, but it wasn't like any saxophone I'd ever heard at the time. And David had this sound that was just incredible. It's an inimitable sound, and people have tried to copy him so much, so often over the years. I've never quite managed it. He's pretty amazing sound, and I think I might have even maybe mentioned this story before, but it's worth repeating simply because it's one of those situations where you just as a point of revelation. It was certainly a point of revelation for me. And I'll just play you I'm going to play you a track from David, and I don't know if you could sort of imagine hearing this kind of sound, although he was a little bit kind of more acerbic in those days, I guess, with his sound, but this is the sort of sound I heard when I was about 14 after having listened to Charlie Parker. It's David Sanborn there with a track called Over and Over. As I say, you just can't imagine. Well, maybe you can. I don't know. If you've been brought up on, Charlie Parker and probably Johnny Hodges and guys like that, it's like the guys just come from a different world, and the sound is really, you either dig it, as they say, or you don't. And for me at that age, it was almost too much for me. And I was just sort of getting into Paul Desmond, which is chalk and cheese as you can possibly get. But I did get to love David's playing very, very much, and I still do. I love the passion that he plays with, and it's deceptively simple what he does. And I can assure you that when you try to do what he's doing, you just realise as a saxophonist just how difficult that is. Just the way he constructs his solos. As I say, they're not harmonically very, very difficult to sort of fathom out, but it's where he puts the notes, as they say. And unfortunately, he's not a well man nowadays. I guess he's getting into sort of like middle to late 70s, and he's still kind of playing. He's kind of a little bit shaky on stuff, being kind. And it's just one of those situations where you think, come on, just, put the horn down. It must be very, 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 very difficult. I think, having played your whole life just to give it up. But he's, like I say, he's making a fist of it at least. If I get to 76, I hope I'll be able to stand, let alone play the saxophone. So anyway, I'll tell you what, we were going on with that funky thing there. What I'd like to do now is continue that funky thing, and this is a guy actually was over here recently, earlier in the year, drummer by the name of Dave Weckl, who is the most phenomenal drummer, and I can assure you that the guys in the Roger Fox band that were playing with him will undoubtedly all say exactly that. And he's not just a great funk drummer, he's a fabulous jazz player. He can read anything, play anything basically. And so here's a couple of tracks, one from his two from the Dave Weckl band, and this first track is called First Step. The first track is called Watch Your Step. It's followed by another track, one of my favourites from him, called Lucky 7. So that was the Dave Weckl Band there with a track called Lucky 7. I'm quite tempted to play that again because Veronica's in the studio and she was having a dance to that, and I'll be quite honest with her, I'd rather just watch her dancing than put the next stuff on, because that's all old time. I don't think she's going to be able to dance to Jake Teargarden, but you know what? Let's give it a whirl and see. She's not dancing. She's not going to dance to this, that's for sure.
They play at pretending. If you're blue, why don't you try pretending? After all, aren't we all idle schemers? What is life but a world full of dreamers? You're not poor, not when you're make-believing. So when you have blue moments to spend, close your eyes and you'll see how surprised you will be if you just pretend. you'll see how surprised you will be if you just pretend.
Talk, every street could talk. There's a lot of married men I know that have to take their beds and walk, except one or two who never hit that booze, and a blind man on the corner who sings his Beale Street blues. I'd rather be here than any place I know. Oh, I'd rather be here than any place I know. It's gonna take a sergeant for to make me go home. Baby, by and by. Oh, I'm going to the river, babe, and there's a reason why. 'Cause the river's wet and Beale Street's done gone dry.
That was the Jack Teargarden big band orchestra, call it what you will, and the first track was called Pretender, to which Veronica was dancing beautifully, and she said, I was most surprised, she said, I love this music, absolutely wonderful. And I thought, gosh, I didn't know that. I kind of sort of picked that on the, on a bit of a drop of a hat, really. I wasn't too sure what to put on, but I thought, yeah, Jack Teargarden, pretty good, Anyway, Veronica likes it. I like it too. And after that, we had Beale Street Blues, again by the Jack Teargarden Band. And Jack Teargarden, of course, very famous trombone player. And I just was looking through the next couple of tracks as I was going to play, and one of them will be from the where are we now? The Woody Herman and his orchestra. And the other one will be from Duke Ellington and his orchestra. So a couple of big bands again. And I was looking at them thinking, oh, actually, you know what? The guy that plays with the Early Autumn, which is going to be the name of the track that I'm going to play, was Stan Getz. Now, he played the lead sort of tenor. It was a 4-piece saxophone section, so 3 tenors, 1 baritone. And Stan, it's called The Four Brothers, as you might well be aware of, you know, very famous. That's The Four Brothers. And Woody Herman, you know, that was his band, and that was the sort of a very unusual saxophone section to have 3 tenors and 1 baritone with a fantastic sound. And Stan has a very, very light sound. And anyway, so Jack Teagarden was the guy that he started his professional career off with, I think probably around about 17 or 18. And I thought I'd just play this track for you. It's called Early Autumn. And it's just such a gorgeous track, and it became one of sort of Stan's sort of you know, sort of standard bearing sort of songs. You know, it was everybody knew him for it, and when you hear it, you'll probably understand why. So this is Early Autumn with Woody Herman and Orchestra featuring Stan Getz. Music there from two of the greatest big band legends of all time, one Woody Herman and the other Duke Ellington. Probably just missing Count Basie, I suppose, and then probably have the holy trinity of big bands. And anyway, so just moving on now, and I'm looking at some of the music I've still got to come up for you. I've got let's see, about another 15 minutes or so, so I'm going to push on through with some music for you very shortly. But let me just remind you, and I will keep on reminding you, because I think it's such an important event for the Wairarapa, the Martinborough Jazz Festival. As I say, begins at the 31st of August, 1st September, 2nd of September, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and begins, they have a sort of preamble on the Thursday evening beforehand. 3 full days of non-stop jazz in Martinborough. Please try and get along and listen to some of the great musicians that are going to be there during that period, all coming up from Wellington, maybe a few coming down from Auckland, I'm not too sure. Wherever they come from, you can be guaranteed that it's going to be a great time, and there'll be music there for virtually everybody. I think you'll find some, sort of very traditional jazz. You're going to find some sort of bebop, some contemporary stuff, some funk. Who knows? It's going to be really, really good. So please, if you can, get along there. You're going to make Ted and Lee both extremely happy men. They're the guys that are spending all their time organising it for you. And what am I going to do next? Where are we go? I know what I was going to play. And this is a chap, one of the sort of, what shall I call him, underrated? Not underrated, no, he's not underrated amongst musicians. But I don't think the sort of general public have a good understanding of where he is in terms of, the sort of hierarchy of saxophone players. But I can guarantee you that Warren Marsh, if he was to... if there was a league table, he'd be up at the top. Well, at least in my book anyway. This is Warren Marsh playing Confirmation. the Don Lusher Band there with I'm back again. Hello. Sorry, people on the radio not watching television. I just disappeared. I got onto microphone C, but they're back on me now. The announcer's microphone, and that was the Don Lusher Band, very famous English trombonist, amazing player, and a really, really nice guy as well. That's his big band playing Shiny Stockings, old standard. And before that, you heard one of my favourite tenor saxophone players, Mr. Warren Marsh, playing a Confirmation with just the bass and drums. What a wonderful combination. I mean, who needs a piano player when you've got guys like that playing? I was thinking through the course of the solo, like, transcribe that solo. So much of it. But everything was completely right as well. It's just gorgeous to listen to. And so, look, listen, it's now 1 hour and 45 minutes into the show. I've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to play you out with a track by sort of kind of contemporary guitarist called Scott Henderson. This is his band called Tribal Tech. I first heard these guys back in, down in Monte Carlo at the time. It would have been about 1985, I think that's right. I first heard Scott Henderson playing down there, very much taken with his playing, amazing player. And this is a track, I'm going to say goodbye in a short while, I'll fade it down and say goodbye and all that sort of stuff. This is a track called Elvis at the Hop.
Trouble.
That track down a little bit, and it's my time of the show to say goodbye. I've had a really lovely time once more playing all this wonderful music for you, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you'd like to write to me, please do. It's arrowfmjazzclub@gmail.com. My name is Alex Nyman, and I hope that I will see you again next week for another hour or so of the very most wonderful music in the whole wide world, jazz, and I hope you enjoy this too. Bye bye.